Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Game of Thrones Season 5, Episode 5, Kill the Boy. This review is free of book spoilers and other kinds of spoilers, provided you have seen up to Season 5, Episode 5. So the episode begins in Meereen, where we are shown that Barristan is in fact dead, as Daenerys is pining over his dead body. Daario offers a plan to completely clean out the city, but Daenerys declares she prefers Daario's earlier suggestion of rounding up all the heads of the noble houses in Meereen. Her advisor, Hizdahr zo Loraq, points out that he's one of the heads of the noble house, to which she's like, "That's right, biatch," and then soldiers immediately seize him and bring him and the other nobles to the catacombs where the dragons are kept, and then she gives a badass gangster speech about how she needs to keep her dragons happy, and then feeds one of the nobles at random to the dragons. While threatening the others, but in the end she takes the others back to their cells. Although I did find this scene quite badass, I actually agree with Daario's most recent suggestion. It seems to do a citywide crackdown would have had a wider effect on the Sons of the Harpy themselves, taking the most powerful men in Meereen and threatening to kill them, and making them watch as she does indeed feed one of them to her dragons, which was a very gruesome death. I personally don't think it's that effective. Granted, these are the most powerful people in Meereen, but they're still just a handful of people. I thought cracking down on the whole city would send a wider message to more people, but then again, it might piss others off, and here she just wants to piss off the masters and hit them where it hurts. But still, I was expecting something more wider reaching than this. Next, we go to the wall where Sam is reading a message about Daenerys' plight to Maester Aemon, who is most likely her last living relative, and he says he feels helpless because he's dying. Jon Snow then comes in and asks for his advice and says he has a plan, but it'll piss off half the Night's Watch, and before Jon even has a chance to tell Maester Aemon what the plan is, he tells him to just do it. Now, when Maester Aemon says he's dying, I take him at his word. It does seem to me like a character so old is probably on his way out. And his words to Jon also aren't surprising. It's the kind of aspiring talk from a dying mentor that a hero needs. So then Jon goes to Tormund Giantsbane and reveals his plan, and that is to find the remaining wildlings and offer them safety behind the wall where they'll give them lands. Tormund is suspicious at first, but then Jon convinces him to go, but he'll only agree to go to Hardhome, where most of the remaining wildlings are, only if Jon goes with him. This plan, of course, makes total sense, and I was waiting for Jon to come up with something like this. Something tells me, though, that it's not all going to go according to plan. So next, Jon tells the Night's Watch about his plan, and it seems like it's more than half who are angry at the plan. It seems like everyone hates the plan. Even his best friend, Dolorous Edd, speaks out against it. I guess the reaction makes sense because they've been at war with the wildlings so long it would be hard to let go of anger, but what Jon Snow says about they can either save the wildlings or add them to the army of the dead is dead right. As you recall, the White Walkers use reanimated dead corpses known as wraiths, but are basically zombies in order to attack. If they just leave the wildlings to die, they'll likely become zombies, so it's in their best interest to save them, but the Night's Watch remain unconvinced. Next, Jon has a heart-to-heart with his personal steward, Olly, whose family was killed by wildlings, trying to convince him it's the right thing to do, but personally, I don't think he was quite convinced. So next we go to Winterfell, where Brienne is staying just across the way, and she enlists the help of some locals to set up a safety system by which Sansa can signal her if she gets into trouble. I think it's a good thing that when Sansa asked who exactly would help her, the old lady just vaguely said she had friends, because if she mentioned Brienne, Sansa would be suspicious and probably wouldn't go along with it. But I noticed she said friends, plural, makes me wonder if there are more than just Brienne willing to help. So then we get a scene with Ramsay having sex with his girlfriend Miranda, who's being all jealous about Sansa. And Ramsay just flat out says, yes, I think she's hot and I can't wait to have sex with her. This is kind of a counterbalance to what happened when Sansa was meant to marry Tyrion, and Tyrion's girlfriend Shae was being all jealous. Tyrion handled it by being all kind and trying to reassure her that he only loves her, not Sansa. Whereas Ramsay's just like flat out, yeah, I want to screw her, and then goes as far as threatening Miranda, as he says jealousy bores him and she knows what happens to people who bore him. So she pretends to let it go, but I don't think she will quite let it go. As indeed, the very next scene, she goes up to Sansa and starts complimenting her dress and says there's something she needs to see, and then takes her to Theon, and of course she's quite upset to see him because she still thinks he murdered her brothers. I'm not quite sure why Miranda did this. I'm not sure what her end game here was. Maybe just to piss off Sansa, I guess. So then we get another scene of Ramsay asserting his power over Theon, and when he asks for his hand, you think he's going to chop off his finger or something wicked, but he just tells him he forgives him. More head games, I guess. After that, we get a scene with the Boltons having dinner with Sansa. Sansa is no longer pretending to not hate them, and outright shows her distaste for them. It doesn't seem like a smart plan to me. I'm not sure what she's thinking here. Maybe she's just so pissed off about the whole Theon thing, and then Ramsay parades Theon in front of her and makes him apologize to her. I'm not sure what the point is here either. What's interesting is Ramsay makes Reek/Theon apologize specifically for killing her brothers when he knows full well that he didn't kill them and that they're still alive. I half expected him to have Reek tell her that, but I suppose that's that the intention was to fake out the audience. You know, that was the intention the showrunners had, because it does make more sense for Ramsay not to let her know her brothers are still alive. Obviously, she'd become more concerned with finding them, and her not knowing gives the Boltons an advantage over her. So then, Roose announces that his wife is pregnant with a boy, to which Ramsay isn't too happy about, because he feels that he's going to be discarded. So then Roose tells him the story of how he was born, and that he raped his mother, and when she came to him with the baby, he almost had them both killed. But when he looked at the baby, he knew it was his son, so he decided to raise him. So he basically told him that story to reassure him he was his son and heir. This is kind of a fucked up, twisted version of the scene we got in the previous episode where Stannis told Shireen the story when she was a baby to reassure her he still loved her, where Roose tells Ramsay about how he raped his mother to reassure him he loves him. That's fucked up. But that's the Boltons for you, and it totally fits and adds an interesting level of dementedness to the Boltons' characters. And by the way, that backstory is straight out of the books, except for the fact that Ramsay was raised by his mother and approached Roose when he was a teenager. Also, Roose had a true-born son that Ramsay in secret killed, but it makes sense to leave that part out of the show. So then we get a scene with Sam telling Gilly about the Maesters and how they train in Old Town, and when Stannis comes in, Gilly runs away in fear. Stannis tells Sam about his father, Randyll Tarly, who was a renowned warrior. Of course, Sam tries to hide his hatred for his father. Randyll Tarly, by the way, is actually a character featured in the books who being a bannerman of the Tyrells gets involved with the Lannisters through their alliance and actually meets Brienne in the 4th book. But I think it makes total sense to leave him out of the show, but he does get a mention and a nod here, which is cool. Stannis then asks Sam about how he killed the White Walker, and Sam tells him about Dragonglass, and Stannis seems interested in that. I'm glad Stannis is actually thinking about the White Walkers. I thought the whole purpose of going north to the Wall was to prepare for a war against the White Walkers, but instead, all he's doing is talking about taking the north and eventually King's Landing. So it's good he's showing he's still concerned about the White Walkers, but personally I don't think it's enough. I think he should be actively preparing for the White Walkers, and I'm a bit pissed off he's not, but we'll see. As indeed, in the next scene, Stannis rides to Winterfell with Davos, Melisandre, and his wife and daughter. The last part I think is a bit odd. I know Stannis tries to excuse this by saying he doesn't want to leave them with the Night's Watch because most of them are thieves and rapers, but instead he takes her into a battle in harsh winter conditions. Come on, that just seems dumb to me. I thought he would want to at least secure Winterfell first and then send for them, but whatever. I get the feeling that them going south with him is necessary for the plot line. So, yeah, whatever. So then we go back to Meereen, where Missandei is sitting with Grey Worm by Grey Worm's bed, as he apparently survived but is not in good shape. Grey Worm feels sorry for himself for letting Barristan die, and Missandei tries to comfort him by kissing him. I heard a lot of people predict that after the events of last week's episode that Grey Worm would die, but it doesn't look like this from this scene. He didn't look like he was dying to me. Missandei even said to him that he will live to fight again, but of course she'd probably say that no matter what his situation was. But to me, it looks like he's going to make it. So then Daenerys asks Missandei for advice, but she kind of evades the question by telling her basically that she should stop asking others what to do and just do what she thinks is best. Personally, I totally disagree with her and think Daenerys has done nothing but make stupid choices after stupid choice since she got to Meereen. But in any event, this is apparently inspires Daenerys to go to Hizdahr, who begs for his life as he thinks he's going to be fed to a dragon, but instead Daenerys tells him she's going to reopen the fighting pits like he wanted and she's going to marry him. Funny, as he expected her to kill him, but instead she proposed to him. He must be thinking, what the fuck? Not so sure how much he actually trusts her now, after almost being eaten by a dragon, but we'll see. Seems to be another stupid choice by Daenerys, but I guess we'll see about that as well. So then, finally, we go to Tyrion and Jorah on the boat, where the two of them kind of start getting along. Tyrion then finds out Jorah plans on traveling through the ruin of Valyria in order to get to Meereen. Now, as you can see on this map here, it's a shortcut to get from Volantis to Meereen, but I'm not quite sure how it is on the show. But in the books, people always purposely avoided the ruin of Valyria and go around it because anyone who travels there never comes out alive, as there is some sort of magical curse on the area. However, the show seems to have changed that a bit, as it doesn't seem as doomed of a place because Jorah is deciding to go right through it. So obviously it doesn't mean certain death like it does in the books. But from the way Jorah and Tyrion are talking about it, it's still not a very good idea. Also, if you note, from the previous episode, Stannis had said those affected with the disease Grayscale, known as Stone Men, are sent to the ruin of Valyria, which is also changed from the book, but we see why, because the Stone Men shortly after attacked Tyrion and Jorah, and this did happen in the books, but at a different location, and when Tyrion was with a different character, and it wasn't Jorah who was affected by the Grayscale, but another character who has been cut from the show. So apparently the show changed Valyria as the home of the Stone Men so they could make this change and have Jorah be the one who gets infected with Grayscale. And I got to say, I'm really, really, really not happy about this. Don't kill Jorah. I just don't. I mean, come on. They just killed Barristan and now they're going to give Jorah a deadly disease? Come on. Anyway, before Tyrion and Jorah were attacked by the Stone Men, they saw Drogon flying overhead, and that was definitely Drogon. There are no other dragons in the world, and if you look closely, you can clearly see it is Drogon. I mean, Drogon is a long ways from Meereen, but I guess dragons can fly pretty far, but that's just a long way to go. At any rate, Jorah and Tyrion lose their boat and are, going to have to make the rest of the journey on foot. It looks like from the scene that Jorah and Tyrion made it out of the ruin of Valyria, so I guess they're back on the mainland. How they got from in the middle of Valyria back to the main continent, which is a journey of like several days, possibly a week's travel, I don't know, but whatever. So my rating for Kill the Boy is a 5 average. Last week I said I thought that episode was the weakest of the season thus far, but I'm going to have to change that now and say that this is the weakest of the season so far. There were some cool scenes, such as Tyrion and Jorah getting attacked by the Stone Men and Daenerys feeding people to dragons, but mostly it was a lot of either boring exposition or just setups for the next episodes. And I want them to just get on with it. Although last year I felt episode 5 was the weakest of the season as well, and after that each episode kept getting better and better, so I'm hoping the same thing will happen this year. So that's it for my review of Kill the Boy. If you have read the books, you should check out the review I'll be doing later on this week with Apkin Tomko, which will be on my channel this week. For that, Apkin Tomko and I have decided to add another feature to the end of that video where we'll be doing a Q&A answering your questions. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask us or topics you'd like us to discuss in our video, submit your questions by commenting in this video below. Please mark your questions by beginning your comment with Q&A, so I know it is a question for the discussion video. And any of these questions will not appear in the comment section. Instead, the comment will be deleted but saved so that Tomko and I can discuss them without having prior knowledge of what the question is. So don't be confused when your comment doesn't appear, but make sure it is marked as Q&A if you want us to discuss it in our discussion video. Also, we pre-record our discussions a day or two before it's put up on YouTube, so any questions submitted after we record our discussion video will be saved for next week. So make sure you subscribe to keep up with all that, and thanks a lot for watching.